Hey guys, near the end of June, we posted a video showing you how we started a perennial garden from seed, and we wanted to loop back around and show you how that garden is doing. We're in the first week of September right now, so it's been a couple months, and I wanted to show you the different aspects of how this garden is going. So here's the Perennial Garden Tour 2.0. A couple initial thoughts about this perennial garden is that number one, we actually did start a lot of annuals and put in a lot of annuals to basically fill the gaps while these perennial plants are starting to gain their full size. We didn't want huge gaps in the garden, and so we put in a lot of annuals that will not return next year unless we choose to put them back. One of the observations I've made about this garden is the annuals are doing awesome and have almost completely taken over the garden, which has been interesting. It'll be interesting to see when we cut back all the annuals how the perennials are doing, because a lot of them are actually being covered by the annuals. Next time I plan a perennial garden, I probably will put in less annuals to fill in the gaps, because there actually are going to be less gaps than I thought. So that's been an interesting observation. The other observation is I've been really surprised how many of our perennials have actually flowered in year one. That has been a really fun aspect and a huge surprise. So things like yarrow, Cupid start, the agastache, so a lot of those perennial plants, even the Russian sage, which is a little bit older because we bought as a plant, we didn't start from seed, but that's flowered this year. Some of the bee balm has flowered this year. And all the feverfew has flowered this year. So that's been really fun to see some of these perennial flowers. We actually have gotten one echinacea flower, which is very surprising because echinacea typically you wouldn't expect it to flower the first year that you start it from seed. So that's been really cool to see. But overall, all of these plants are doing really well. And one of the design parameters that this garden had was they wanted it to be really wild and like much more like a cottage garden. So if you see this garden and you're like, whoa, that is crazy, that's exactly what they wanted and they love it. So if you're like more of a formal garden with like straight lines and defined, you know, where things go, this might not be the garden for you. This might overwhelm you, but if you are much more into the cottage garden feel, this is exactly what they wanted for their garden. They wanted it to look exactly this way, so they're very happy with it. For me, it feels a little bit on the wild side. I personally would have scaled a lot of things back just so that the perennials had a better chance at establishing in their own space. Because some of them I can't even see, they're covered by, especially the cosmos went crazy. That's another thing I've learned about cosmos this year. So I've only ever grown cosmos in the context of a cut flower garden. And so it's a 12-inch spacing. You use support systems to keep them upright, and it's just very like tightly packed, and all your cosmos are in one area. In a garden, cosmos, I would actually give it like a 24-inch radius, actually, if not even more. And I definitely wouldn't plant more than one cosmos next to each other again. In a lot of spaces, I did like 3 cosmos, and they have just gone wild and taken over. So that's something I learned. There's a difference between a cut flower garden and a cottage garden, and I'm learning that. So this is a brand new experience for me. This is my first attempt at designing a garden. I'm pretty happy with it, but I think that I've learned a lot. Something else I've learned in this context, in this process, is there are microclimates in your microclimate. So some of these beds are actually like symmetrical. As you can see, this bed over here and a bed over there are the exact same design on paper. They're the exact same plants, they're in the exact same spots, but they look vastly different. And the reason for that is microclimates. So on that side of the garden, you have this giant tree with a very well-established root system that loves to drink water. And on this side, the trees are a lot smaller and the root systems are not as established. And so what you have is a lot more competition. You can see the competition of, on one side, the plants are a lot smaller, they haven't done as well, more have died, there's more disease. And that's because of the competition for water, is my hypothesis. And on the other side, you have, you know, a garden bed that's going insane and is extremely abundant. So that's been an interesting thing to learn about this garden, is its microclimates. I also think it might be at a slope, going this way, and so the water is running down this way, makes a huge impact. Like if your water is running even on the slightest slope, you need to account for that in your garden design. So I think overall, some of my favorites this year, I think my favorite flower in this garden this year has been the yarrow. I think the yarrow has really surprised me, and it's because we did a mix. We did a Colorado mix, and we did a Baker Creek mix, which is like a flower burst fruit bowl mix is what it's called. And it's been really fun to see the different colors come out. Yarrow is typically thought of as like a yellow flower, and I think all of the ones we have are these beautiful pastel pinks, purples, and then there's one like magenta that's really pretty. So that's been super fun to experience. Once again, the cosmos are doing amazing. I do way less cosmos next year. We bought a very specific butterfly bush that is non-invasive, because in Washington, butterfly bushes are considered invasive. And so we have a very specific one that's bred to not spread its seed. And that one has been flowering already, which I'm very surprised about. That's been really fun. And then we are still waiting for our asters to bloom, and they're huge, so I'm very excited. It's just gonna be like covered in these beautiful bluish flowers, so I'm very excited for that. So I think overall, I'm really happy with how this has all gone. This garden is supportive of coming out and picking a bouquet probably every couple of days, so that's been really nice. And then we also have the little bit of a vegetable garden going that has the raised bed part of the vegetable garden has done pretty well. We're still working on the secondary patch that I think has just too much rock in it, and so we're still working on making that be an abundant patch. The sunflowers, I mean, there is an 8-foot tall sunflower, so I'm pretty happy with that. It's a majestic sunflower. So overall, the tomatoes are overflowing, the sunflowers are massive, the cosmos are, extremely abundant. And then the other thing that has been super exciting to see is the pollinators. So there's the theory that certain plants are pollinator attractors and you can rattle that off really easily. It's another thing to actually see it in action. So the borage is massive and it is covered with bees, like to the point where I don't want to touch the plant because I'm afraid of getting stung. There's so many bees, like I might grab one. So that has been really exciting to see the massive amount of pollinators. There's hummingbirds in the yard. So I've seen tons of bees, I've seen hummingbirds, and I've seen butterflies. So that has been a huge, just like feeling of like accomplishment to actually create a pollinator hub. So that's been super happy. So I definitely have plans for this garden. There's a few things I did wrong. Like I don't know why I did this. I planted the lupin basically right on top of the butterfly bushes. It was like a mad dash there at the end of the planting season to get everything in, and I just didn't do it well enough in some areas. You know how it is. It's hard to stick to your plan when you're just trying to plant thousands of plants. I think there's a couple things I'd change, go back, move a couple plants this next season, add some more perennials where some of the annuals were. But yeah, I think I'm very happy with the outcome. I'm very excited for the future of this garden, and I think it's going to be an awesome place. Year 2 and 3, it's just going to be even more explosive. So thanks for watching this tour of this perennial garden. If you have any stories about your perennial garden that you started from seed, I'd love to hear about that in the comments. This next year, I'm hoping to expand my ability to start perennials from seed. I want to try Japanese anemone and other plants like that, which I've heard are a little bit more tricky, but I want to keep expanding my abilities to start different plants from seed. The big takeaway for the year, the big flower winner of the year for me is yarrow. It's easy to start from seed. You get a massive amount of different colors from the different mixes, and it flowers in the first year, and it's extremely abundant in the first year. Like, you could make tons of bouquets in the first year, and it's going to come back next year, which is really exciting. So that's my big winner for the year, is the yarrow. I definitely plant yarrow everywhere I did a garden. I love the smell. Some people don't like the smell, but I love the smell. So yeah, that's my winner for the year. Excited for the future for this garden. Let me know in the comments if you have any other ideas for perennials we could add. Thanks so much for watching. Please give this video a like and subscribe to our channel.